Thank you for joining us today on the iGaming channel. I'm delighted to introduce to you Stephen Crystal of SCCG. Hi, Stephen. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Great to be here.
Thank you for joining us. So I brought you onto the channel as one of the industry's most credible, reputable global advisory firms. So should we perhaps start telling us a little bit about your background and what you do?
Yeah, first let me say I really think what you're doing with the iGaming channels is a great addition to the landscape. So I applaud you for bringing this type of content. We are a global industry. I know that because I spend about 250 to 300 days a year traveling the globe, connecting with professionals in the gambling industry. It used to be I would focus in my hometown in Kansas City, Missouri. This was back in 1992 when we started, and we were doing riverboat casinos. But now I could be in Africa, I could be in the Middle East, I could be in Europe on any given week, talking about everything from casinos to online gaming to sports books to all kinds of products in the gambling industry. And it's just amazing over 33 years how the industry has gone global.
And what sort of main lines of advisory, where's the demand and your areas of expertise?
I think it's important as I look back at 3 decades in the business. When I started in the industry, I was an attorney wearing that hat and advising operators, brands on how to enter markets in a legal way, how to navigate new regulations and new legislation for new types of gambling. And prior to that, I had a career in politics, both being an office holder and helping run campaigns at the local, state, and national level. Those skills would prove to be useful when I was looking at new jurisdictions and new markets and local referendums and the things that were necessary to bring gambling to different parts of the US and to the world. And so everything started with kind of a legal and regulatory underpinning. And after many years of doing that for many, many, many companies in the US and around the globe, including tribal governments, tribal nations here in the US and in Canada, I decided to become a principal in the gambling industry. And with a partner, we picked up and formed a company that was based in Las Vegas and soon would acquire 6 of the operating casinos on Fremont Street in downtown Las Vegas. So I went from being a legal advisor to an operator of a significant enterprise in the heart of Las Vegas, where it all started, employing 7,500 people, running 250,000 square foot of gaming. I went from the back rooms to the front office, so to speak, and that really opened my eyes to what it takes to be in the business. So that's the roots. That's how we started, and that formed the foundation for us being able to hold ourselves out as turnkey advisors in any number of areas, with any number of B2B and B2C brands in any number of jurisdictions. But in order to do that, we had to have a strong foundation, which we developed and cut our teeth day by day in the trenches.
I guess the numbers must be huge when you're talking about acquiring land-based casinos on the Strip.
Well, it wasn't something when I was born that I set out to do. I think a lot of us are in the right place at the right time. We meet the right people. I often tell the story that the way I got into the gambling industry was I worked for a senior partner in a law firm, and he saw 2 guys come into the lobby wearing swamp boots, dripping of mud because they had been walking the Missouri River. And he was wearing his 3-piece suit. You know, they wore 3-piece suits back then in the early 90s. And he said, "Why don't you go out? You're the low man on the totem pole. Why don't you go out and see what these guys are up to?" And I had been around the block in politics, and I knew first and foremost not to judge a book by its cover. I knew there was something to these gentlemen. And soon I found out that his decision not to see them and my decision to go out there and try to figure out what was going on would lead to a very rich experience in not only representing the gaming industry, being part of the gaming industry, being part of expansion, not only in the U.S., but throughout the globe. So it started with just the notion that I was willing to be open and flexible and figure out what was going on and meet some people who really wanted to push the envelope and make something happen.
So what was the online gambling landscape like when you first got into this business?
When I got into the business in the U.S., in the late 80s, early 90s, basically you had casinos in Atlantic City, New Jersey, and Las Vegas, and throughout Nevada. You had a sprinkling of tribal bingo operators throughout the U.S. in states like Oklahoma, California, etc. And so for the first 10, 15 years of my career, in the 90s and 2000s, it was about the expansion of casinos. And in the US, online gaming wasn't a thing. But I knew enough then to start going across the pond to your neck of the woods, to the Ice Gaming Convention and others that were being held in London and other places in Europe, Eastern Europe, etc., Latin America. And I knew enough to start learning about the future. So the rest of the world was about 15, 20 years ahead of America. And we didn't first experience online gaming until the legalization through a Supreme Court decision that was instigated by the state of New Jersey in 2018. And when that happened, and then shortly after COVID happened and kind of closed down the world, we were well positioned with knowledge of online gaming and knowing how to handle this unique market, the United States. We were well positioned to welcome companies from Europe, brands from Europe and around the world who wanted to come and do business in America, which is often the case. And so we were the beneficiary of hundreds of B2B and B2C brands that needed to understand how to do business, whether it was with commercial jurisdictions or tribal jurisdictions, of which we have both in America. We were boots on the ground, particularly at a time when people couldn't even travel here. And that really exploded our business into a global phenomenon. And all we've done is just continue to build upon that year after year, opening up offices in Brazil, in Africa, in the Middle East, in Latin America, Mexico City, and other places. We just knew that we wanted to be a global connector of brands and of jurisdictions. We knew we wanted to be global, and we knew we wanted to be part of the expansion of online gaming and technology, and that's what we've evolved into.
And how the legal and regulatory landscape shapes itself? Is it fairly similar from country to country in your experience?
I would say there are similar aspects. For example, taxation policy. That's always a big issue because we know bureaucrats and government officials like to get their fingers into the pie. So that's always a tax policy, and how the industry will be regulated in that respect is always important. Issues around responsible gaming. What is the responsible way to bring gambling to new emerging markets are always an issue. But the big thing I notice is that, let's take Brazil, the most recent market to open up. I've probably visited Brazil 15 or 20 times in the last 15 years. I started going there over a decade ago, before there was even a hint of real chance at getting gambling, because I knew it was a market that had a lot of local customs. You know, you have a society addicted to their soccer or football, as you would refer to it. You know that there are certain idiosyncrasies about the Brazilian way. And so what I would say to you, there are similar attributes and concerns and objectives market by market. But at the end of the day, there are local factors that cannot be mastered by simply making a visit when things heat up. You have to invest time and effort, and you have to work with local actors, local folks that understand the markets in order to really take advantage of opportunity. It's not enough just to understand iGaming or casinos. You have to understand the local markets.
And which markets have you seen experience most growth in the last 5 years or so?
I think the exciting markets, obviously in Europe, you've had a retrenchment. So Europe was an early leader in all types of gambling. But over the years, the regulators have become more, let's say, maternalistic or paternalistic. They've become more interested in regulation. Some would say killing the golden goose, and I think that's a good way to look at it. And so that has led to markets like Latin America, Africa, Brazil as a market, even markets like Middle East and India, which represent big opportunities, are starting to flex their muscle in a way towards regulation. So I would say that most of my effort right now, obviously, America is still the big prize because of the ability of consumers here to invest in social activities and entertainment options like gambling. But you can't ignore Asia, you can't ignore Latin America, Africa, Middle East, India. These are the emerging markets of the future. So as much of my time has to be dedicated there as it is to my home front.
Something I've noticed in the UK is all of the taxation, the compliance, and the regulatory tightening. It's killed off a lot of the smaller operators. Is that something that you've noticed in other markets?
We do a lot of mergers and acquisitions. We do a lot of finance-oriented, engagements and advisory. What happens is in the beginning, a lot of companies and brands jump in. It's in the entrepreneurial spirit. They try to make their way, and then over time, companies combine. There's a consolidation, and then there are a few big brands standing. I think if you took the top 5 or 6 or 7 brands in the UK, they would comprise a good chunk of the market. Same in America. We started with 150 brands. I represented one of them, Betfred, who's a major player in the UK. And then over time, not a long period of time, 4, 5, 6 years, it consolidated down to really 4 or 5 or 6 major players. So that's quite a consolidation in a place like America, where you have, a target audience of hundreds of millions of people with disposable income. So it is a nature of how this industry works. The barriers of entry can be higher over time. The regulatory cost can be higher over time, and it's hard for startups or entrepreneurial brands to break through sometimes.
So is that the way that the US market's going generally, consolidating down to 5 or 10 big players?
That's where we are right now. But, I would say there are opportunities. It's a big country. There are niches. There are demographics. There are brands. I would say there's lots of ways to tackle a market. There's lots of products. There's tribal gaming. There's Class 2 mobile on-premise, which is a unique bingo-based type of gaming for tribes. There's sweepstakes gaming or social gaming, which is now estimated to be a $12 to $15 billion market in the U.S., as big as regulated iGaming. So there's fantasy sports. There's skill-based gaming. There's companies that do predictive wagering on predictive outcomes for different types of events, political, entertainment, across the board. So there's, the way I look at the US, I tend to like to support the underdog. This is my career. I've often considered myself the underdog. I'm not a corporate person. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm someone who likes to enable entrepreneurs, to invest in entrepreneurs.
I think it's always good to give consumers a choice. Yeah, you may innovate and you may not be the big dog, so to speak, in the end, but you may bring something to the industry that adds value over time. So I think you can win. You can win some battles along the way. You might lose the war as a brand or as a supplier, or you might break through. But a lot of times it's about the process and the journey and what you can do to get your piece of the pie.
And how do you foresee the future stability and growth for the affiliate market? Because if there's only 5 or 10 players and there's hundreds of affiliates doing comparisons about the same brands, does the value of an affiliate begin to diminish to an extent?
Well, all you have to do is look at the public stocks of companies like Catena, Better Collective, gambling.com. A lot of them have seen their share prices fall, their revenues fall. It's a very tough landscape in the US right now for affiliates because we don't have many new markets opening up. Affiliate traffic is best when markets are opening up because it's that initial rush for your share of the market that causes CPAs to rise, percentage participations to rise. And when that doesn't exist, it becomes very difficult. So you're seeing a lot of retrenchment and creative ways to go at markets and build value, and also coming up with longer term strategies for the future. So these businesses are retrenching right now.
I've really seen that typified with media. I got into the business working for CNN, the big broadcaster, and I remember when they made 30-second adverts allowed in the UK on TV for the first time, and putting those adverts out, being like, I was the first bingo affiliate to get out there, one of the first bookmakers, and the results were just ridiculous. Like sometimes gambling companies were making their money back within an hour after the ad, but 15 years later, when everyone's seen hundreds of gambling ads, the effect is not quite so profitable, should we say?
Yeah, of course. And there's also been more restrictions placed on what you can advertise, what can be in an advertisement, where you can advertise. So there's a lot more regulation. GDPR is a bigger factor, particularly in Europe, less so in the US. But it's also an issue in Brazil where they're trying to decide, their soccer culture has been, overwhelmed with sports betting ads and advertisements. The soccer clubs like it, but is this what the fan base wants long term? I would say that the other thing we've seen in terms of if we've seen a diminution in affiliates in terms of their impact or the business model, we have seen a rise, obviously, of influencers, of micro influencers. We partner at SCCG. We have a partnership with the number one slot influencer in the world, Lady Luck HQ.
Oh,
where we're pursuing our own digital assets in social casino, etc. We have an agency where we partner with brands like Cash Money Records, the Birdman, a famous rap producer and rapper. So we're doing many interesting things where we're aligning ourselves. We have a partnership with El Santo, the famous luchador family from Mexico. So we're trying to find iconic brands, influencers, mega celebrities. We launched a card game called Boo-Ray that's very popular with NBA and NFL players. We had Mark Wahlberg come down and kick us off at G2E last year with a celebrity tournament that we did at one of our partners, Tom's Watch Bar, a very fast-growing sports entertainment restaurant bar set of venues in the U.S. and around the globe. So we're doing different types of things to engage with fans and to connect with people who enjoy the gambling lifestyle, other than just kind of traditional advertising and affiliate traffic. There'll always be a role for that and a big role, but there's now even more of a growing role for this influencer and celebrity type traffic.
I've always been intrigued how much these influencers, I mean, I watch them a lot, Lady Luck HQ and Vegas Matt, and they all kind of team up sometimes and cross sell each other's audience. How much influence do they have? How many players does, I mean, Lady Luck's what, about 800,000 subscribers or something?
I'm privy, obviously, to a lot of metrics because of the relationship, but suffice it to say that their ability to convert players, fans, into participating in different types of gambling activity is significant. Mm-hmm. And because of that, these influencers garner significant power to affect this, and by virtue of that, significant revenue. Mm-hmm. So I would say that it is a very effective way to convert traffic into players, depositors. And I think as long as that continues to be the case, you'll see them team up. There's enough to go around. So they have their attitude is it's better to join forces than to try to compete, because there's a big marketplace out there. And I agree with that.
Yeah, it seems like there's about half a dozen of them that control the Vegas, like Raja's another one.
Yes. Yeah, they all have a different appeal. I've always liked, I've been very close with Francine and Moran at Lady Luck HQ. I know them as people. They're solid individuals. They're now living here in Vegas, and so we get to spend more time together. But yeah, it's I've seen how they do their work. They're really passionate about it, not just about doing the social media, but also the mechanics of the game, the joy of playing an online slot or a physical slot. And as somebody like myself who's been in the industry for 33 years, yeah, I'm not a slot player and I'm not a table game player. I understand all the games, but I'm passionate about the industry. So I'm always happy to see other like-minded folks who are passionate about the industry.
I don't think there's anyone more passionate than Lady Luck when she wins.
Yeah, exactly. She's excited, for sure.
Yeah, it's exciting. So is there still a lot of money coming into gambling from companies outside of the gambling industry in terms of investments in the States? And
I think it's all slowed down for now. I think, you've seen investment in different types of technology, let's say streaming technology. Live casino is a very active space with companies like Evolution and Playtech playing a prominent role. We have our own partners in that space, and we also partner with a German company called Nanocosmos, who has some of the best technology around the infrastructure of streaming live games. So we focus on brands, but what we're known for is focusing on the B2B technology brands that power the industry. That's where we're strongest.
Very competitive, isn't it? The B2B tech.
It is. You have lots of slot studios. You have folks that are providing platforms, or what we call PAMs, which are player account management systems. We have companies providing CRM. We've been fortunate to work with the best in the industry in every category. I think we cover, 10 or 15 categories in the ecosystem as it relates to online gaming and sports betting. We cover a similar amount in terms of casino and casino technology. There's not anything we haven't touched in the industry, and there's not any geography we haven't touched over 33 years.
How much impact do you think AI has had on gambling tech to date, and how much impact do you see that having over the next few years?
I'll use a good example. We represent a company called Com100. It's a very influential company that uses AI to automate the customer service process. And the issue in some cases is even finding personnel can be challenging. This is an issue many industries are having. There's a shortage of employees because generationally things have changed, and we have a different type of employee. Some of them don't want to work. Some of them want to work remote. There's all kinds of dynamics that go on. And so you can use AI to automate customer service processes for online gaming. And what it does is solve a problem. I'm giving excellent customer service with fewer people, and I'm using people to do other things like do coding or do UI UX or to do marketing. So I think I can give you 100 examples where AI comes into it. Everything from in-play sports betting, predictive analytics. I mean, AI and machine learning permeates almost every aspect of the online gaming experience. And we make sure to know those companies and to get associated with them and to apply their technologies to best-in-class practices.
Do you believe that's the biggest growth potential over the next few years?
I think it's here to stay. There's a lot of fear mongering about how it's going to take over the world. Obviously, I've never been a moralist. I've never been a fear mongerer about gambling. I'm a libertarian. I believe people, as long as you don't hurt other people, and as long as we don't prey on people in any way that aren't up to partaking in things in a healthy way, as long as we do things responsibly, I think we should allow technology to evolve. We should allow people to partake in it. I just see opportunity and not threat.
And what's on the horizon for your business over the next few years? Where are your main priorities in terms of growth and development?
Well, look, I'm 59, so it's not like I'm not at the beginning of my journey, but I don't feel I'm really near the end of it either. I think about these issues a lot because I'm a person who loves to work. I love to create. I love to collaborate. I love to travel the world, and I love still to meet new people and hear new ideas. So I think it's unlimited. Every day we're pushing the envelope, whether it's geographically, whether it's from a product standpoint or technology standpoint. So I think the opportunities are unlimited. I think expansion is unlimited. New markets are emerging all the time. So I just see more of the same process of exploration, of understanding the localization and customs, of being able to provide great market access, great market intelligence. And I see continuing that. And now we're starting to teach the next generation, bring young people into the business and teach them how passionate we are about this business. And that's been challenging at times, but fun too. So I think just more of the same. Mentorship for the next generation is important to us, and energy and excitement about where we can go as an industry. So yeah, that's where we are.
What advice or wisdom would you give to entrepreneurs that are coming fresh into the industry in terms of where they should focus their operations and such like?
Look, I would say I think it was said of me by a colleague in the industry that they described me as someone who others view as a very resilient person because I swing for the fences. I think that's a definition of an entrepreneur. You want to come up with a dream. You don't want to be constrained. Obviously, if you dream and then you try to execute, you're not gonna hit the home run every time. It doesn't happen that way in life. You have to be passionate about the process. You have to be resilient and be able to pick yourself up when things don't go according to plan. The world is a tough place, but it's a very rewarding place. I think you have to be ethical at all times. You can't take shortcuts. It doesn't work. I like people to be kind. I preach that it's better to be kind than to be mean. As they say, I prefer dolphins to sharks, although the world is full of sharks. So I'm philosophical about it because I've enjoyed a successful journey so far, basically playing the long game. And that's what I'm going to do till the very end. So that's what I teach young people who are coming into our orbit, is to play the long game.
And integrity before everything, because you see a lot of companies treat people mean and they're sharky, and they're usually the ones that struggle to scale their business, and they're not around anymore before too long.
Lot to be said about culture, and sometimes we we go overboard in terms of making it more complicated than it has to be. We've seen a lot of backlash in that in the U.S. In particular, but the good old fashioned norms, do unto others like you want to be done unto yourself, treat others fairly, do what you say you're going to do, action, not words. These are the things I hear myself saying over and over and over. They're still tried and true principles for business and entrepreneurialism.
And if you could impart one bit of wisdom as you started out in your career, what would that be?
I told the story at the beginning, and it's what launched my passion and career in gambling, which was I never judge a book by its cover. I always want to look beyond what I'm seeing with my eyes to discover for myself what the true essence of something is. I have that curiosity. So if I could impart one bit of wisdom, it would be, to don't judge a book by its cover. Be open to what the world can offer, and don't just make judgments and stay in a bubble hiding behind your judgments. Allow yourself to go deeper. This is what I would say.
Is there anything else you would like to add as we come towards I know you've got another appointment. Anything else you'd like to add as we come?
No, look, as I said when I started, I applaud what you're doing with the iGaming channel. I think it's a great vehicle to bring thought leaders and visionaries and people who are passionate about the industry to talk a little bit about their perspectives and what they see on the horizon and how their businesses fit into it. So I applaud what you're doing. I'm happy to have spent the time and look forward to other occasions when we can come together.
Thank you very much for your time. Thanks for watching. I will put all of Stephen's contact details in the description below. Do please follow us for more educational, informative videos with business leaders like Stephen. Thanks again for your time. It's been wonderful to meet you, to learn about your business and to absorb some wisdom at the same time and learn something.
Thank you.
Thanks ever so much for your time, Stephen. Thanks ever so much. Thanks for watching, guys.